Cinephiles, film enthusiasts, and relaxation seekers. My name is Cinephile ASMR, and today we are talking about Moonfall. This film tells the story of, you guessed it, the moon, where something deep in its core has set it off its natural trajectory and has headed it on a one-way ticket to Earth. And a last-ditch effort, the most brilliant minds and scientists and astronauts come together to help stop this from destroying the Earth. I was very fortunate enough to get myself an early screener of this movie a week before its release. This was before a Rotten Tomatoes score was released. Critics put out their opinions, so I went into this really, truly blind. And I came out of this with a searing headache. I'm not one to say that I absolutely love post-apocalyptic natural disaster movies, because let's face it, a lot of that genre has been saturated with such mediocrity, and I think because of that, a general audience has come to really digest that because there hasn't been something that has tried to challenge that. And Moonfall necessarily doesn't avoid that. It goes straight into it, but does like to say something new. This comes from one of the wildest minds in Hollywood with Roland Emmerich, who has made himself the crowned jewel of natural disaster movies. He's done 2012, The Day After Tomorrow, Godzilla, not the 2014 one, the one with Matthew Broderick, the weird one, and a lot of other films which deal with world-ending stakes. I don't know why it is that this man has such a fixation for it, but it's his niche, and for better and for worse, this has his fingerprints littered throughout it. Although I would say it is easily his weakest film, he has done things of this nature so much better. Needless to say, my expectations were tempered. I don't go into natural disaster movies wanting character pieces and dissections into one's mind. I mean, you go for the natural disaster, but I think you at least have to give some voluntary care to the characters that are put into these situations. I mean, look at his previous work with 2012. You had John Cusack in a limo company, and you had the Russian family with the dog, or at least likable characters. I mean, for God's sake, you had Woody Harrelson at this conspirator living in an RV on a mountain, eating pickles, prophesizing the end of the world. It was memorable, at least. And I think that's the worst thing about Moonfall, is there's nothing egregiously offensible committed, and there isn't anything incredible done. It just sits in that gray area of subpar, meh. None of the actors here are given challenging roles or ones that they can really sink their teeth into. You have Patrick Wilson, who made such a fantastic role as King Orm in Aquaman, showcasing his range and versatility. Really just, and this goes for everybody, fulfilling a role that could have just been applicable to everyone. You see his films, and The Day After Tomorrow, I see Jake Gyllenhaal and Dennis Quaid as father and son, and I tell myself they were really great within their chemistry to fulfill their roles. But this, I could have picked anyone to play Patrick Wilson's character. I don't even remember the name. Same thing with Halle Berry, and you have A-list actors here ready to give it their all, and the movie doesn't really give it to them at all. This certainly does go to the umbrella of what we digest as audience members and what we expect or lack thereof. I'm certainly not expecting some auteur filmmaking, avant-garde indie film in the disaster genre. I just have been really conditioned to expect mediocrity, and I'm kind of sick of it. You have great examples like The Impossible, one of the best natural disaster films where it focuses on the characters being thrusted into these insane end-of-the-world stakes, but instead, Roland Emmerich really has this fixation on the world ending, and he has these characters in laughable moments and some insanely cheesy, explicit product placement. I was scratching my head, and you can't help but laugh, but I do think you can find some enjoyment in that. There is effort put into this. I really think it's difficult for anyone to say no effort was put into any movie. It requires some level of focus and intuitive thought to put into film, regardless of how bad it is for it to be made. And the visuals are great when you're seeing the moon literally start breaking itself, and it's scattering all over the earth. Those wide shots are beautiful. Not all the CGI is great. There's a lot of green screen effects where characters are in front of green screen, and it looks egregious. I think a lot of, if not most of the budget went for definitely the wides where you get to see it all. And it's good. It's really strong. And if you go in with your buddies, I think you can have some fun and get some friends together, laugh at it, with it, however you best feel. And if you are a fan of natural disaster movies, I think this will fulfill that thirst. It's just, it doesn't really do anything challenging or new, but that third act, I will say, just completely throws everything on the wall and sees what sticks. That is not to say that if you weren't into the movie, you suddenly will. I highly doubt that. I wasn't, but I kind of had to admire the sheer effort put into the insanity. And by the end, I had a good time. I was lucky enough to catch it, and I hope you can form your own opinion. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I expect more out of my meals for film, and it just wasn't for me. But of course, it's just not my cup of tea. Could definitely be yours. Construct your own opinion. But with all that being said, characters that are really just gray sacks of nothing could have been played by anyone, had fantastic actors, some good CGI moments, action that is clearly meant to be mindless fun. This isn't a movie that scientists and, astronauts went in with Roland and this creative team and poured over what was authentic and not. It's a natural disaster movie. You're meant to have fun. I think you could enjoy it. There is fun to be had. But in the end, it was a lackluster mixed bag that was a lot of flash, a lot of things happening. Not all of it worked for me. But I had fun. It wasn't offensively bad. It wasn't great either. It just sat in that finite gray. So, with all that being said, I'm going to give Moonfall a C. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. I love the fact that I was being able to be invited to a screener of it, and I hope I could do so for more videos for you guys. Let me know what you thought of Moonfall down below. Do you have a favorite natural disaster movie? Like I said, mine would probably have to be The Impossible. I think it's a fantastic film. Tugs on my heartstrings, and I guess I ate so well with that meal. There's no way that I could probably go back from there. Let me know what you thought down below, and as always, I love you so very, very much. And remember to take life one frame at a time.